Neil Hodgson, probably most famous for winning 2000 BSB Championship and then going on to win 3 years later the World Superbike Championship. Impressive stuff. We knew each other from being in the World Superbike paddock at the same time, but not well. It wasn't till around 2010, I think, that we ended up room sharing while instructing on circuit. And we got to know each other's eccentric ways, and I got to really like Neil's open, sometimes blunt honesty, and decided to help him as much as I can, to learn the trade of teaching on track. He was new to it. I'd been doing it a few years. Fast forward 7 or so years later, 2018, I'm new to commentary and I'm struggling. And even though he's a competitor, if you really look at it, he sat me down and said, "Simon, don't give up. You will figure this out." Here's what Neil had to say about his best race.
Now then, right, so I was asked off my good friend Simon Crafer if I'd do a video about my greatest race. Obviously, I dropped everything, the chance or an opportunity to talk about myself, so I was like, I'll do it straight away. No. Before I go into my little story, I just want to say how I met Simon. Simon's a really good friend of mine, and probably the first time I saw him was in about 1992. He was racing in England in the British Superbikes for the factory Castrol Honda team at the time. And he didn't know me back then. I was only, I think, 92. I was 17, 18 years old. And me and my dad were stood on pit lane and we watched Simon Crafer come past on this RC30 with a thing on lock, spinning. My dad went, "That's that Kiwi lad, Simon Crafer." And I'm like, "Oh, I've not really heard of him." And my dad's like, "Bloody hell, he can ride." And it's funny what happened, obviously watching Simon through his career. We raced together in World Superbikes a little bit. Didn't have many good ding-dongs. When he was riding well, I was riding bad. And when I was riding well, he was riding bad. So it was one of them, really. But I remember back in 97, when he really got the hang of that Kawasaki and started backing it in off the scale. And he was like one of the first riders I saw where he'd slide it in towards the apex and almost get on the throttle before it came back in line, which freaked me out at the time. And he took that technique and skill and talent into GP racing, and that's what he did basically on the 500cc Yamaha when he got the hang of that, and obviously won at Donington, but also had a great year that year. So, and then me and Simon started teaching together. Simon was working for Focused Events probably 10 years ago, and I got involved in doing some teaching, so we used to share a room, and I didn't know anything about teaching, to be honest, so he taught me all I know. And then he left to start Motovudu, which any of you that's been involved in doing track days, or if you've been lucky enough to go on a Motovudu course with him, it's off the scale. He's the best in the business, really, and there's a few doing it. So if you need to learn how to go around a track faster, safer, he's the man to go with. So anyway, that's me a little bit about Simon. So greatest race, right? For me, it was actually, they showed it recently the other day on I don't know if it was on Eurosport. I don't know what it was on, but it was when I was a wild card back in the year 2000 at Donington Park, and I won the second race. But the story behind it goes, I'd done World Superbikes in 1996, 7 and 8. And to be honest, I wasn't great by a long shot. I wasn't bad, but I wasn't great. I had a podium. I was Mr. Fifth Place. I had lots of fifth places for some reason. But at the end of my 3 years in World Superbikes, I sort of got the chop and went back to British Superbikes, where I joined a really good team and started to rebuild my confidence. So I raced in 1999 at BSB, and during that year, actually the team talked a little bit about doing a wild card, and they asked me if I was interested in doing it, and I said, "Do you know what? No," which I think surprised them, but I knew I wasn't ready. Anyway, fast forward a year, it's now the year 2000, the season had started really good, and I was riding probably better than I had done ever in my career. And the team said, "Do you fancy doing a wild card?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm ready." And it was really nice to get back in the paddock, because back into the World Superbike paddock, I left like a beaten man. a rider that had no self-belief, no confidence. And to be back in it with my shoulders back and knowing I've got a chance this weekend. Didn't think I was going to win, by the way, but I thought I'll be in the top 5, and I want to mix it with some people. I want to get my elbows out. So I was sort of angry. I was like the angry man, which wasn't me. I've always been pretty chilled with it. So anyway, the weekend started, and what a lot of people, well, I've not really told many people this will sound really bad, but I'm going to say it. In the practice sessions, like the early free practice sessions, I was that full of confidence and that full of adrenaline that I just wanted to stuff people and stripe them, which is so bad looking back. And I remember waiting for Gregorio Olivier a few times, because he, in 1998, when I left Kawasaki, he sort of took my ride. It wasn't his fault, he was riding really well, and he deserved the factory Kawasaki ride, so he took my ride. So I'm like in the practice sessions looking around waiting for him to come and pass me, so he'd get past me, then I'd follow him for a few corners and I'd just dive bomb him into a corner. Idiots. But anyway, it made me feel good at the time. So anyway, practice went well. Can't remember where I qualified, but I think it was second row. First race was good, and I was in the mix, and I ended up finishing 3rd. And that gave me more confidence. I'm like, I think we've a chance to fight for the win. Anyway, race 2 started, and it was me, Chris Walker and Harger having a real good scrap. Whilst we were having a scrap, Frankie Killy on the Suzuki, I think he'd chosen a softer compound rear tyre, and he checked out really, and I thought, well, it's the battle for second really. And when I mean he checked out, it was probably about 4 or 5 seconds up the road. Killy, that was. So during the race, all I was bothered about was beating Walker, who was like my British Championship rival. And Chris was riding incredibly well, like he always does, very aggressive. And Harger was in there, and we were swapping paint. And do you know what? I was loving the race. It was one of those races that went by like that. Anyway, with about probably 5 laps to go, I remember thinking, bloody hell, we're catching. The gap's closing. We're catching Frankie, but we're going to run out of time. Anyway, with about 3 laps to go, I'm like, we're definitely going to run out of time. Anyway, I'm at the front of the bunch. And as I started the last lap, I looked towards, Frankie was probably about 1.5 seconds in front, and I thought, do you know what, if I have the perfect lap, I might have half a chance at the last corner, but probably not. And my pit board had said something like plus 0.3, so I thought, I've got a big enough gap where I can take the fastest, most sweeping lines. I don't have to be defensive. So I hung it all out, and luckily for me, we went down Craner Curves, the old hairpin up through Schwanzer's, McLean's and Coppice. Anyway, Coppice is that fast corner onto the back straight. And Frankie's tyre had gone completely. And what happened, if you've seen the video, he has a big slide because it's such an important corner. And as he has a big slide, he gets out of the seat, out of the throttle, and that gives me the chance to get momentum to come along him on the straight. And I come like weaseling past him. And then I'm so dirty because I go like this, I sort of turn into him on the straight. My head's gone at this time. I'm like, oh my God, it's the last lap. It's the British round of World Superbikes. And I'm in a chance of winning, so I was every tactic I could get. So I thought I'd come across him, so maybe he'd have to chop the throttle. I don't know if he did or not, and I've never asked him. Anyway, I'm past him on the straight, into the old foggy S's, so they were tight. So I go a bit defensive, I get out of there good, and then I go tight into the Melbourne loop, get through there. And as I'm heading towards the last corner, everything's going through my mind. I'm like, oh my God. Like literally I was holding my breath. Into the difficult Goddard's last corner, I went defensive, I got out of the corner, and then I'm just like, I accelerate, do the weirdest, crappiest wheelie you've ever seen, the bike sort of hits me in the face, and I'm like, and my reaction's this, you see me doing this, and like literally it wasn't trying to be cool, it was utter shock and emotion. I've just won a World Superbike race, and to be honest, I sort of never thought I could. I wasn't one of these riders who had loads of confidence, who thought, oh, I'm going to be world champion, I'm going to smoke everybody. I just wasn't like that. So the emotion then, there was a track invasion. Some of my mates, my best mate from school and my brother got on the track, and that was at turn 1. And then I went down Craner Curves and someone gives me a flag, and the emotion of then coming down pit lane and seeing all your friends and family, everyone's crying, I was crying. Oh my God. best sport in the world, eh? So that was my best race. I've got to say, I had some good races before it, I had some good races after it, but the adrenaline rush, that release of whatever chemical, as well as adrenaline in my body, nothing can describe it. It was on a scale of 1 to 10, it was 100. Sorry, not on a scale of 1 to 10, it was 100. On a scale of 1 to 100, it was 100. And every crash, every bit of stress, every training mile I jogged or cycled was worth it for that feeling. So that was my best race. I just wish I had more of them. I hope you're enjoying the rest of the stories coming in from some other riders. And like I said, if you need to learn how to ride around a track fast and safe, speak to Mr. Crafer. He's the man. Take care, everyone.